Welcome! It's a brand new week, so this means we have a new track rotation, and I'm here for you to show you exactly again how to master 3 tracks in LMU for this week. So let's jump right now into the first track. The first track we'll have a look at is Spa for the GT3 Sprint. So it's really important that we bring the car early in time already to the left side. So you see I'm now already on the left, and we basically brake before this total energy sign on the left disappears. So that's our braking reference point for turn 1. We brake in a straight line, and then quite late turning point, try to get into the banking here at the apex, and then you can really go onto the power and open the steering and let the TC do the work. Just be careful that you don't go too aggressive on the power with too much steering lock, otherwise you'll lose the rear quite easily. Then for the straight here to Rouge, we basically just stay on the right side. And then really important, you want to cut at the bottom of the hill here as much as you can, so you can do all the rotation here in between this apex and the one before. So then when we are here, we can just open the steering and just go straight over this. Yeah, the cuts is here quite lenient, so sometimes you get a green cut. Just really important that you don't cut too much on the left side, otherwise you'll be fine here. Then for Le Camp, for the next section, bring the car over to the left side. As a braking reference point, what I can give you is basically as soon as you are getting onto the curb, that's why we want to press into the brake. So press here into the brake, trail braking, cut as much as you can here over the first apex. A bit of throttle in between to get the speed up. Then here again, cut as much as the track limit allows you. Like, look here from the outside, how much actually is possible. And this is really crucial because you don't want to run too wide here on the exit of this part. So you want to bring the car over to the left here, lift, so you can go on the power here, rotate the car and maximize the track limit. Really crucial here to not go too early on the power because this will push you wide. Also, from my experience, you can take the red and yellow curve, but be careful with the green one, it will pull you too much around. Then for the next hairpin, basically, what I'm doing here is a bit of an esports line. I go onto the grass here, because you just have the grip there for some reason. And you brake on the curb here into the inside and still the double apex, yeah? So you go here onto the curb, point the car towards the inside. You see it quite well here from the onboard. Point the car here into the inside first apex. Then we overshoot. And then in between those two, we go onto the power, cut here the second apex. Trying not to run too wide here on the exit because we want to sacrifice this exit a bit for the no-name corner, which is ahead of us, the downhill left. So we bring the car over to the right, onto the curb, so we maximize the entry space, and it also helps when driving down with rotation. So we drive you down, a bit of tap on the brake to just get a bit of weight onto the front axle, and then when we are at the apex on the power, maximize the track on the exit, and then we're done with no name. Now, one of the more harder corners here on this track, especially with the Ferrari, because it's quite pitch sensitive here. We go onto the right side curb. Use this Toyota Gazoo Racing sign as a reference point for the braking, and then you try to roll the car a bit into the corner till you reach the first apex, because I felt like with the majority of the cars, if you trail brake here too much, you can lose the rear quite easily. So just be careful in the section. So we go on the power here, maximize the space at the exit and here again at the apex. And now for Piff Puff, bring the car over to the left. We use the curb here on the left side as a reference point. We go down into second gear. And on the inside here, what I can recommend you guys, you see here, the red and yellow curb, you see there's like, it's basically not like a hole, but you want to put the inside tire here into it because it will pull you around. So this is why we want to use here this area where you have the tarmac and then changing to the red and yellow curb, because it just pulls the front around and it helps you to go early on the power. So go on the power here, use the throttle to bring the car to the right side, so we can open up the second part of Piff Puff a bit more. Then we lift and use again here the drop in the curb basically to pull the car around. Maximize the track on the exit, and now really important, don't forget now to bring the car early in time here onto the left side. And then we brake here once we arrive on the left curb. Till the apex on the power, maximize the road. Now, really important, don't try to turn in here too early, because the earlier you turn in, the harder it will be to get it flat. So really late turn in here, because once you turn off the curb, you have like a rotation boost. So that's why we try to delay it as long as we can. And we get the inside of the tire here of the car again into this hole, because it pulls the car around, as you know. And then we have an easy flat out 702. Now basically till Blanchimont, our main target is to just drive the line with the smallest steering input possible. Now you can bring the car over to the right side, and in case you didn't know, you can really drive also a bit here off the white line, as the game allows you to basically cut the track limit here a bit more, and it just helps you massively with opening up the Blanchimont here on the left. And this trick, so to say, also helps you a lot in dirty air, just so you know. And now for the bus stop braking, we use the Michelin board on the left. So before we pass this one, we go really hard into the brakes. Late turn in, we try to cut here over the curb and open up basically the second part of the bus. So we don't want to run here too wide. So we do a small compromise here. Tap off the brake, open the steering, accelerate, maximize the track, and there you go. That's a lap around Spa. Let's jump now into Delta, where I want to show you again 2 crucial sequences of Spa. Arrived here in Delta, you see already our wonderful new video analysis tool. That really helps you to learn and improve way quicker than before. So I wanted to show you first Lecomte, because it's one of the most important sequences you need to get right at Spa, as you can gain and lose so much time at the same time. So here you see we maximize the curb onto the left side, and as soon as we hit the curb, we start to brake really hard. We keep it also at 100% till we can turn in. And then we start to reduce the braking, you know, we trail brake. And you see it really well also here with the steering icon, how much we essentially steer. So we cut over here the curb as much as we can, because we want to straight line the first 2 corners as much as we can. So cut as much as the track limit allows you here. A bit on the power here to just increase the speed of the car so we can lift again for the left-hander, and then that's the rotation done for the left-hander. Here we try to cut again as much as the track limit allows us. Why? Because then we can open up the exit of this corner sequence as much as possible, which is always the target. So we cut here over the entire curb, wait patiently till we arrive at the apex, go onto the power, still with the focus to bring the car over to the left side. And then we just need to do like a small lift here, be patient, and then we can go onto the power. And if we wouldn't do the sacrifice here on the exit to bring the car over to the left, we would never ever be able to drive out of this corner sequence with that amount of minimum corner speed and go so aggressively on the power. The other crucial part of Spa that I want to show you is Pouin. Why? Because it's a make it or break it corner. If you do a mistake here, it costs you most of the time a lot, till the point where you can even lose the car. So it's really important that you get this corner right. So how do we approach Pouin? We go onto the right curb here, and you really see how we try to maximize the road, right? And then before the Toyota Gazoo racing, box there on the right side, we start to brake, and then look at the blue steering wheel again. We trail brake just a bit at the initial stage here, right? And then we are out of the brakes. Why? Because you see already, we almost have to counter steer. We go here into neutral steering initially, and this means we are already on the edge of the grip. If I would trail here even deeper with the amount of steering lock I have now, almost at the apex, I would lose the rear. So that's why it's important that you don't have like a full, trail braking phase in this corner, in my opinion. Otherwise, you will just lose the car. Or you need to make the setup so stable that it's just then too slow everywhere else. So you see here, then we wait patiently, and then when we can open the steering, that's where we can go onto the power. And yeah, I have to say though, at this point, I just need to, again, mention it. It's so nice that we have this video footage now synced, because it makes your life so much easier to just see what the pro is doing and then, put it into practice and accelerate your improvement. Now we're at Imola for the WEC Experience in the Ferrari again. And in this first left-hander, you just want to stay tight and then let yourself run wide here to the right side. For the braking, we use the area here on the right side where there is no grass growing, basically. It's quite kind of funny, but it's literally the perfect braking point. Then we let ourselves run wide here onto the Italian curb, as I like to call it. Turn in so we can cut here as much of the track as the track limit allows us to do. And for that, I will just go into the third person here so you just really see how much is possible. Here again, look how much we cut. And then, because we really don't try to run too wide here onto the left side, we keep the car basically in the middle of the road. We don't even need to cut here as much. And even on the exit, we don't even run into the issue of having not enough track. So that's why it's always here important that you focus on cutting here as much as the car and track allows you to do, so you have enough road available to have this corner flat out. Then for the next chicane, we bring the car over to the right side. Braking point is the good old Goodyear sign. So just before we arrive there, we try to brake. And as with turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, turn 4, we try to cut as much as possible at the apex curves to straight line our line. So here, cut, brake, cut, and then on the power. Bring the car over to the right side. Use the 50-meter board as a reference point to brake. Late apex because we want to open the steering and go aggressively onto the power like you see here. And if you do that, you don't even need to maximize the roll because you just had such an amazing exit. So, for the following left-hander, what do? We stay here tight on the right side, and similar to turn 1, we use here the area where the grass is not growing as braking reference marker. So we brake there hard, trail brake till the apex, almost, and as basically Spa, we don't even need to trail brake here too deep because we have the rotation already done at that point. So when we drive onto the curb, we can go here now onto the power, maximize the road. Crucial, bring the car over to the left here now, onto the curb, and out of the throttle. Before you reach the Avis sign, eyes look ahead. You really want to look where you're going here, otherwise you will do quickly a mistake. So out of the throttle, and then you see here the braking input. We really are smoothly and really soft on the brakes. Why? Because we don't need to slow the car down. We just need to have a bit of more weight onto the front axle and help the front end to go around. So just watch here the braking trace. You see, literally 5%, if at all. Here again, just to keep the front end going. And then when we arrive here at the apex, we then start our proper braking. We let the car run basically wide here to the left. And then at the apex, we cut here and go onto the power, open the steering. Be careful that you don't run here into the gravel because it will invalidate your lap time and it costs so much time. Now for the chicane, we bring the car over to the left side. The curb is our reference marker, so once the car is positioned on the curb, we start the brake. And really important, try to cut as much as the track limit allows you here on the first part because it will help you massively here with the second part. Keep in mind on my braking trace here, I go a bit into the brakes to get again a bit of turn in for the left part. And then I can go onto the power, maximize the track, and that's the chicane in our pocket. Now for the last two corners, it's basically important that you don't turn in too late into the right because you want to be here with your inside tires on the curb here on the right side. Where do we brake? Essentially, you have the 100-meter board or the DHL sign after this and then the last DHL sign. And between those two DHL signs, I basically brake. It's, I would say, around 75 meters. So we brake on the curb here. Why? Because when we drive here off the curb into the left-hander, we get a nice rotation boost. I'll see exactly here. Look how the car just turned in. Then here, cut over the curb here on the inside. Then on the power, open the steering. Really important that you maximize the curb here on the exit because it helps you to open up the left-hander, like you see here. And then on the power at the corner inside, open the steering. And then that's the lap done around Imola. If you are in the quali, what I really recommend you, try to stay here close to the inside as much as you can because it just gives you like 3,000s or hundreds. Now I want to have a look again in Delta to show you 2 more crucial areas that you have to watch out for at Imola to really get a good lap time. So the first section I really want to point out is the first 3 corners, or like the first corner sequence. And just so you know, guys, all those reference laps from today are done on race fuel because I think it's just better for you to compare it, you know, from a race lap rather than quali. So here we have a look at this first section. So what's important here, as you see, while braking, we maximize here the right side of the curb, and it's so nice really because without the video analysis tool, beforehand you would see, of course, the 2D here line what I'm taking, but now you really see it at the same time where I'm really positioning the car, and this really, I think, helps you to illustrate on what you need to look for when you try to improve and see our comparison lap from us pro drivers. So you see we go into the brakes hard, go to the right side onto the curb, trailer brake almost till the apex, and then here, look how much we can actually cut over the curb. And I think before you couldn't really get an idea how it looks like if you only look at the, you know, racing line from the top, so to say. But here with this video analysis feature now, you really just see what I mean when I say, hey, maximize the road, you know, in Delta. So here, cut over it as much as you can on the power. Same applies here for this right kink. And then here, the most crucial section is here to not run too wide. Bring the car in the middle of the road, and then you can turn it nicely and can drive through the next left-hander without worrying flat out. The next one, or the next sequence, which is really important, I think, is Aqua Minerale and the chicane. So we go here into this part first, and we see we go onto the curb here onto the left side into Aqua Minerale. Why? Because curbs have more grip in LMU than tarmac, at least for me it feels like. And when we drive from a curb down onto the tarmac, we get always rotation boosts. And with this boost here, we really just need to tap the brake a bit if we want a bit more front end, like you see here. And after we pass the first curb, then we do our first proper braking zone. And really important here that you run off to the left side here to maximize the entry for the following right-hander. Then here you can cut as much as your car allows, basically over the apex, then on the power, and then we need to be here really careful with the exit because gravel is just instant time loss and invalidation. Then for the chicane, you see really well now also, you know, side by side here, and then here with the video footage, what I mean by like maximizing the track, because we're going from the normal tarmac onto the curb, and it's just really shown nicely by the data and the video. So we go here onto the curb, then turn in, and now we really see how much the driver cuts with the new video feature. You know, you see, bam, all over it, and then a small tap onto the brake to get some front end bite, and then we can accelerate out of the corner without thinking or worrying about the corner exit. So for the last track, we are on the Corvette Z06, I think it's called, because it's just like the car you want to drive on this track right now. And important, if you want to know, I used for the TC 557 and brake biases on 49.8, ABS on 9. And this is again with race fuel, just so you know. I think it's a quite good representative time. And we start now the lap. Basically, the first 20 seconds, I guess, are quite boring because it's just flat out. But there's still something really to keep in mind, because turn 1 in this case really requires you to be on the inside at the apex. You don't want to turn in too late, because if you turn in too late, you will just understeer and you need really the camber to get the corner flat. So now we try to turn in before the orange marker on the right side, before the marshal post basically. Get the car really here into the inside. And even here, like, really try to get the car here as close as possible to the curb, because it helps you to use the banking and get it flat out. You can open up the steering if you want to scrub less the tire, but then here really important that you keep the car on the right side. We brake basically between the 150 meter board and the orange barrier, basically here on the right side. Into the first gear, we try to cut here over the curb. For that I go into the outside view here. And we try to short shift into second before we start to accelerate, right? And then here we do a lift before we go onto the curb, so we can finalize all the rotation, drive over it. And then after we drove over the curb here, we can then apply the power and open the steering. I'll quickly go again into the onboard just so you see it here again. So braking, 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 late turn in, first gear, now short shift to second, and gas, lift, and then gas again, maximize the road on the exit. Now for the first lesson, we try to aim to brake before the orange marker here on the wall, into third gear, get the car into the apex. And important for you to know, the Corvette really doesn't like too much trail braking here setup wise, so you want to coast here normally more than you would actually think. And on the power at the apex, run wide, maximize the road here. Then we use the 50 meter board here to brake. Second gear, use a bit of the inside curb, but not too much. Basically that is like a fine limit, I would say. I try to avoid the green part because it unsettles the car too much in my opinion. And here on the exit, be really careful with the track limit, because if you pass this triangle curb here, you will get an insta cut. So you see I have always a bit of margin here because the track cuts in the race are brutal. Now for the braking here is we use the orange wall here, or sorry, the orange marker here on the right side again. So just after that we basically brake, and it's the same as if you want to just brake at this tarmac stripe essentially. So we brake here, third gear, try to use a bit of the right side curb here, so when we turn off to the left we get this rotation boost, cut as much as the track limit allows us here over the curb. And then here, really important, you want to go early on the curb like I do here, and then you just lift a bit to keep the car stable. Keep the car to the right, so now you can open the steering, short shift into fourth before the curb, so you save the TC cut. And then this corner is quite easily flat out basically. Then for Parabolica, we try to aim for the Marshall indicator flag, as I like to call it. That's how we brake into third gear. Here you can trail brake a bit more deeper, but again a bit of a coasting phase. Late apex, aggressive on the power, open the steering at the same time, and then keep the car here tight so you travel less distance. And yeah, this was the lap around Monza Curva Grande, and now let's jump into Delta because I want to show you there again something crucial for Ascari. So quickly here in Delta, just crucially to point out here, you see we brake just when we reach here the tarmac stripe on the right side, and then watch here. We brake hard, hard, hard from the right side basically to go on to the right curb here slightly. We don't want to go completely on it, but just if the outside tire just touches it slightly, we get this lovely rotation boost, like also on the other tracks, where when you turn off the curb, the car just bites a bit more. And this is really like the key ingredient to be able to brake late and still cut a lot of the curb here on the inside. If you do that, you will have such a nice time, because if you're able to cut here as much as I do, the entire Scari is essentially opened up. So we go here onto the power at the apex, lift just a bit when we go onto the curb so the car settles down, stay patient, and then once we see the curb on the left side, we already can go flat out, open the steering, and then do the short shift here. You see before the curb. Why? Because when you drive over the curb, the RPM spikes, and in third gear I feel like you get a TC cut, whereas if you're on the fourth, you still accelerate a bit more. So that's why we go into the fourth gear, although you normally want to rev the car out. So that's really important to know. And if you are able to already steer at that point to the left side, like you see here, where you see the steering input, you have no issues at all driving this corner flat out here. Because you see, we don't even run into issues here at all with the track limit. I hope you guys enjoyed the lab guides. If you did, feel free to leave a thumbs up, subscribe, and I see you in the next video. Bye bye.